I am Bryn Caswell.
And I'm Colin Dorsey. Great to have you with us.
Yes.
Let's go to Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Right. There is a major case happening there right now. It's the trial of 36-year-old Lindsay Clancy. That's in Massachusetts. And she's accused of 3 counts of first-degree murder. She's accused of murdering her 3 children.
A 5-year-old, a 3-year-old,
Yes.
and an 8-month-old. This all happened in January 2023.
Right.
She, prosecutors, the state is saying that she had planned out these murders before making a fake attempt at suicide on herself.
Right.
She's now paralyzed due to that attempt. This has gained a lot of attention and really put a focus on postpartum.
Right, maternal health care
Yes.
in general. And the reason why it is because throughout this entire trial, the defense in particular has shown text messages, calls, all this proof that she had reached out for help time and time again. She had reached out to her mother-in-law. She's reached out to her mother. She reached out to multiple healthcare providers. She reached out to her husband. And still somehow, after receiving some care, this still transpired and she fell through the cracks. And so, again, it's just bringing, a lot of attention on this. And so we're going to play part of the trial. Her mother-in-law took the stand yesterday, actually, and she was asked about the side effects and the experience that Lindsay was having and what she was communicating with her.
She felt mostly she had insomnia. She was losing her appetite. She was very anxious and sad.
Did she tell you that she was seeing doctors?
Yes.
And at some point, did you recommend, did she come to you and ask you for help regarding seeing a doctor?
Yeah, she asked for my support.
And did you obviously gave it to her?
Yes.
And what did you do to make any recommendations for her?
I reached out to my colleagues who were running a clinic for women that were struggling postpartum.
And then as this trial continued, we learned that she was sending text messages asking for her mom to come and help. And I mean, in these text messages, they're very raw. You can read them. And Lindsay Clancy is stating like, Mom, I need help. I'm not feeling right. Something's wrong. I'm not able to sleep. And so again, another outreach for help.
It was sometime probably around the 2nd week of October.
What happened that you noticed?
I noticed that she had become very anxious. She told me she was anxious about going back to work because Callan was having trouble taking a bottle and she didn't feel right about leaving him.
So right now we're going to go ahead and bring in Tonya Fulwider, the Executive Director of the Mental Health of America here in Ohio. Thank you for joining us. This case certainly has put a lot of spotlight on maternal mental health, especially postpartum care. We know a lot of mothers can suffer with, depression symptoms after birth, that postpartum time period. What are some of the risk factors associated with postpartum depression?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. And I want to step back and offer just a little context. The term postpartum depression, what we often think of actually can begin during pregnancy. So a lot of times we'll use the term perinatal, which means from the beginning of pregnancy through about the first year postpartum as the whole kind of pregnancy postpartum time period, perinatal. But risk factors, so associated with postpartum psychosis would be a personal or family history of bipolar disorder. But as far as pregnancy or postpartum depression, a personal or family history of a mental health condition, so depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder is probably the most common risk factor, but personal stressors, financial stress, relationship stress, all the physical changes that happen in pregnancy or postpartum, lack of sleep, those hormonal changes, which are huge, pregnancy or infant loss, birth trauma, barriers to care. But they're not really a checklist, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody can have a lot of risk factors and not be impacted by this condition, or but no one is immune. It can
right, and I feel
anyone.
Like it's definitely on a spectrum because some people don't get full blown postpartum depression. They just maybe have the baby blues for a little while, and they're just feeling a little down. They don't like when the sun goes down, and then you can get into psychosis, which is a whole different thing. I know you said you've been following this case. What are your biggest takeaways? She obviously reached out for help and was trying to get care time and time again.
Yeah, it's a tough question because I don't know what exactly happened. She did the right things, and it's tough for practitioners because there is no blood test to say this is the diagnosis. It's important to continue to talk to providers that you trust, whether that's an OBGYN, your baby's pediatrician. Reach out to care, reach out to those that you love, and hopefully have education about what signs and symptoms look like across the spectrum, whether that's pregnancy or postpartum depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, or psychosis.
Right, and it's important to note too that this can be something that affects, especially postpartum depression, can affect anybody, even if it's a family that has that seemingly perfect life. Everything's put together, supportive partners, stable home. We're talking about hormonal changes. We're talking about a significant life change here. For what resources are available? I mean, because we are talking about this can once again happen to anyone in their lives. What resources are out there? How do you even start this conversation?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you asked that question. So resources here in Central Ohio, what I hope happens to anyone who gives birth in Central Ohio is that their perinatal care provider, OBGYN, or any midwife has asked or screened them for a perinatal mental health condition and will refer them to the POEM program, Perinatal Outreach Encouragement for Moms, which is the program that's hosted at Mental Health America of Ohio. And what's so important about the program, and is actually unique both in the state as well as nationally, is that it's a single entry point of care. So you don't have to know, do I need a therapist? Do I need a psychiatrist? What kind of resource do I need? Do I know what my diagnosis is? You just have to reach out to the team at POEM. It's a team of perinatal peer support specialists, and the team understands the full spectrum of conditions and can help walk moms through, or families or providers can walk moms through what the conditions look like and what kind of care might be helpful, and then stay engaged with mom through the whole process. And there's a peer walking alongside them.
Wow, that's wonderful, because I think that's so important, someone to check in on you and kind of keep track of where things are at. Obviously, within the last 20 years, the whole conversation surrounding mental health has changed a lot. It's definitely more prevalent, I would say. How have you seen it changed over the years when it comes to postpartum healthcare for moms?
Yeah, it has. POEM's been around for a long time, and we have seen that a lot more folks are comfortable sharing, asking their providers, talking to their friends and family. We see more providers screening. We see more activity both locally and in the state. We have an Ohio Perinatal Behavioral Health Task Force that actually just launched a More to Our Story campaign, just launching to really talk about the spectrum of conditions. But it's also that, particularly when we talk about things like postpartum psychosis, it's not widely understood. There's a lot of misconception between something like perinatal OCD. People understand OCD, but maybe they don't understand that scary and intrusive thoughts where that's associated with OCD is very different than postpartum psychosis, where there's a loss of touch with reality. And if we don't have people who have that education, understand the differences, then we have moms and families that are afraid to speak up because they're afraid that someone might take their baby away. So it is really important that we continue to grow in our understanding specifically about perinatal mental health conditions across the spectrum, and keep getting our clinical provider partners trained in treating these conditions.
Okay.
What would be a final message you have to people out there when it comes to reducing stigma, breaking down those barriers when it comes to just even opening up that conversation?
Yeah. Well, clearly stigma still exists, and I really just can continue to encourage providers, moms, and families that these conditions, depression, anxiety, are common. They're the most common complication of pregnancy and childbirth. They're common. It's not your fault. You're not to blame. It doesn't mean you're a bad mom. You deserve care. You deserve help. And with help, you can get better.
Right, Tonya, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
coming on. Really great conversation
Yeah.
there.
And remember, if you find yourself in some sort of crisis, remember the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 24/7. All you need to do is call or text 988. Someone is live on the other end of that line to help. It doesn't have to be suicide. It just needs to be some sort of crisis. Whatever you feel you need help with, there are people to help. So remember, 988.